Welcome back to r/Aholetax, where jerks get exactly what they deserve in a very satisfying way. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive into the stories. This story is titled, "Despite the will, my Aunt Karen thinks my parents' property belongs to her." This happened almost 5 years ago, and I just got notice yesterday that my entitled Aunt Karen has just died, and I got a call from her husband asking me to attend the funeral next weekend, and I declined, as did my older brother Mark for purposes of this story. Karen was my mother's older sister, and she constantly interfered in my mother and her children's lives. She never liked my father and always tried to tell my mom that she made a mistake by marrying him. She did not like the name my parents picked out for my older brother, and my great-grandmother died the day before I was born, and when Karen found out they were going to name me after her, Karen freaked out and said she wanted to name her potential future kid that, so my mom couldn't use it. Then she tried to talk her out of it by saying it is too old-fashioned and kids would make fun of me, which they did, but for other reasons. See my username for a clue. She criticized both my brothers and my choice of friends, and even complained when I started playing softball because proper ladies didn't play sports, and if her daughter ever tried playing a sport, she would have her removed from the team. Spoiler, she never had children. The day after my 16th birthday, my parents drove on a business trip down to California. I live in Idaho. My dad said that when they got back, he would drive me to the DMV to get my license. He never did because on the drive to California, they hit a patch of ice, spun out, crashed and died. I was a wreck for some time after that. I didn't even want to attend my high school graduation later because my parents wouldn't be there. Their will split everything evenly between my brother and I. At the funeral, my parents, who owned their own business, production manager Tim, was talking to my brother, and my brother told him that in a couple of weeks he would step in and take over, and he was counting on Tim to run things smoothly until then and help him in taking it over and learning the ropes. I had no interest in the business other than it was a guaranteed summer job when I was growing up, so I stayed out of it and just collected profit checks until I sold my half to Mark, and he continues to run the business to this day. Mark told Tim that he should assure the employees there that their jobs were safe and that no major changes would be made. Then one day, Aunt Karen showed up and began putting her stuff in my parents' office, and when Tim confronted her about this, she said his services were no longer needed and he was fired. Tim called Mark up, and Mark went down with the family attorney, some police and the necessary paperwork, and had her removed, while she said the place was now hers because it was her sister's, so she was now the owner. As long as I have known her, she has never had a steady job and has had 3 husbands, not counting the man who called me, never met him, and milked each one for as much as she could until she divorced him. I went in and called my brother, and he again showed up with the family attorney, police and all the paperwork, and had her removed from the property. I was at school, so I didn't get to see what happened, but that night Mark gave me a business card for a policeman who I assumed helped deal with all this, and told me that if I ever saw Aunt Karen on or near the property, to call that number and report her immediately. Don't even try to confront her or give her a warning, just call. I do know that the movers charged her to move her stuff into the van, drive across town, get turned away, and drive back across town and move her stuff back into her apartment, which she hadn't given notice yet. I got scared to the point that I didn't like letting our dog into the backyard when I was at school. I used to put her out in the yard to let her play in the fenced backyard while I was in school. For a while I just put her in the locked and closed garage and then cleaned up her messes when I got home in the afternoon. Eventually Karen moved to Colorado, where I assume she met and married the man who called me and said that she had died and he couldn't find anyone from her family to attend the funeral. I chose not to tell him about her, politely said, "Sorry for your loss, but I cannot make it." From discussions with Mark, he basically told him the same thing. Outside of myself, Mark, and Mark's infant daughter, I don't think she has any living relatives. I still own the house. Mark gave me his half as part of the deal, where I sold him my half of the business, but I still sleep in my bedroom. I refuse to move into what was once my parents' bedroom, the master bedroom, go to the local university, go Broncos, and still miss my parents and think about them every day, and even though I am 20, 21 in less than 2 weeks, own a large home, have a lot of money in the bank, I would trade it all to have my parents back. But I don't care about the how or why of Aunt Karen's death. And this one is titled, "Don't mess with your farmer neighbor, you may have to pay for it." So this did not happen to me, but an attorney that I work with regularly as part of my job. He moved from a very high COL area to our rural community. Sold his $2 million house, paid off and inherited from his grandparents, and bought 50+ acres with a huge house in a bedroom community that has a lot of dairy farms. He always used to say how it was much better living up here, both in terms of the lifestyle and monetarily, as his urban $2 million house had property taxes in excess of $40,000 per year. Now, in addition to the huge house, the property was mostly fields, 40-ish acres, and had a 10-acre or so large woodlot. After he moved into his new house, the attorney was approached by his neighbor, one of the area dairy farmers. The farmer told the attorney how he had a handshake agreement with the former owner of the attorney's home/property. The farmer would mow the fields for hay 2 to 3 times per year and would harvest a sustainable amount of trees out of the woodlot. In exchange, the former property owner got 10% of the chopped wood, which was more than enough to heat the house all year long without having to run the oil boiler for anything more than hot water. The farmer wanted to keep this arrangement going as it had worked out well for both parties for over a decade. The attorney thought the former owner was being taken advantage of and refused to do a handshake agreement, but told the farmer to give him a week to draw up a proper contract. The farmer was not overjoyed with making this out to be more than a gentleman's agreement, but agreed to come back the following week. The attorney decided that what would be fair was that the farmer should pay him $1,000 each time he mowed the fields for hay, since the farmer would feed the hay to his cows for free, otherwise completely ignoring that the farmer was using his own equipment and time to do the haying, and that the lawyer deserved 50% of the chopped wood, not 10%, or at least 50% of the revenue the farmer got from selling the excess chopped wood. Again ignoring the equipment and time investment of the farmer. As you can guess, the farmer refused. This all happened in late 2019 when the fields were rather bare and the supply of chopped wood for the house was full. Well, here comes 2020 and now the fields start looking like garbage because none of the other farmers will pay to hay the fields. In fact, after speaking with the first farmer, all of the other area farmers are unwilling to mow the fields unless the attorney pays them $1,000 per mowing. And of course, come wintertime, the attorney's wood pile is depleted and he has to use the oil boiler to heat his entire home, costing well over $300 per month in winter heating costs. Now we come to early 2021, tax prep season. The farmer, being a dutiful, community-minded citizen, informs the town that he did not cultivate any of the attorney's land for the entirety of 2020, nor did he know of any other farmers who did. Well, as it turns out, this is a big deal because in our state farmland is assessed at a much lower value than residential property and additionally has a separate and lower tax rate. The attorney's land had previously been entirely zoned as farmland except for the house and a few acres of lawn around it, and now the town sent out an assessor and rezoned the entire 50+ acres as residential, which more than tripled the taxable property value and imposed the residential tax rate rather than the much lower farm tax rate. The attorney was quite surprised and furiously told me and everyone else we work with all this past week how he is going to sue the town because they now expect him to pay $50,000 per year in property taxes. And damn guys, I mean, that is a very expensive property/house, but $40,000 to $50,000 per year in property taxes is quite a lot. I'm curious for my ripe stars who own a house or property themselves, how much do you pay in property taxes per year? Just out of curiosity, please let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, "Falsify my timesheet so you can get free work out of me? I don't think so." I'm a truck driver and we have to log our working and driving time accurately so we don't go over mandatory government limits of 11 hours of driving in a 14-hour workday with no more than 70 hours worked a week. The operations manager at my local terminal covers weekend dispatcher shifts and is notorious for pressuring drivers to work the absolute maximum in a given day by using any and all tricks possible. Well, I got tired of him trying to extend my day by having me falsify my logs and getting me to work 18 plus hours a day, so I started recording any calls I received from him, one-party consent state. On recording I got him stating I should change my working time so he could send me on another load. After telling him that I wouldn't do that because if my logs are reviewed I could face a large fine, I was ordered to do it or I would be terminated. That is all I needed here. I went home and sent the recording to our safety department, terminal manager and my regular dispatcher, noting I would not return to work until the problem was solved. I received several calls from work trying to have me come up to the terminal so the issue could be discussed. Stating I am fine discussing them over the phone, I told them I would be recording the call as I always do and see no reason to drive an hour to work just for the discussion. Being told this matter could only be handled in person, I responded that our safety department was trying to contact me. Safety was a night and day difference. I was put on a safety hold, which means I could not drive a truck until they lifted it and cut me a check to a day's pay on the spot. Safety asked me to go up to the terminal and call them when I got there. Doing an instructed, I called safety and the terminal manager. Safety and myself had a three-way meeting discussing why drivers should not be coerced into falsifying their timesheets for extra work. The operations manager was fired on the spot after the recording was played again with all of hearing it together. As an apology, I was given an extended weekend with pay for all days, including my normal days off, and I returned to work that next Monday. And Ripe Stars, if you have watched until here and enjoy my content, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance, it really means a lot to me and it helps me tremendously. And the next one is titled, How I Got Revenge on My Realtor After I Was Tricked into a 1-year buyer/agency contract who had no intention of helping us buy a home. My husband and I met with the top realtor that a very popular agency had to offer. We saved for 2 years and we are ready for a home. He was confident, encouraging and made us feel like he could get us into our dream home. We reviewed financials with him and he saw we each had tier 1 credit, both scores over 800, plus we had enough saved for a conventional loan. He was clearly so happy because he could smell that commission check. He brought out the contract. We discussed the buyer and agency contract, which did not seem like a big deal because we were very serious about buying. We also knew most realtors did this, so it was not alarming. In case you don't know, this contract is standardly a 3-month contract stating that you will not buy/rent/lease any property without the realtor getting their fair commission, and if you go behind their back with someone else, they will be entitled to a percentage of whatever property you purchase. The clause he failed to mention/we missed, this was a 1-year contract. We were not worried at first because again we were sure to be buying a property, but let me tell you, when we told him the price range we were looking, about $150,000 under what the bank approved for us for, he became completely upset and defensive.
Why are you dropping your standards? Don't you have any dying relatives who could co-sign so you can get the house paid off quicker? I don't want to show you houses in that area,
etc. He saw that large commission check vanish before his eyes. We continued to stay in touch because what option did we have? We were contractually committed to buying a home through him and only him for the next year. We sent him links to many houses asking when we can see them. He would take a week or 2 to respond back, and when my dream home slipped through my fingers due to his delays, I had enough. I politely asked if he would relinquish us from the contract as we clearly had different goals. I apologized for being upset, but I told him why. I said I did not feel like he was making us a priority and I would rather hire someone private. His response?
Well, I will be running your financials for the next year to see if you buy, lease, rent anything. I would reread that contract you signed and find a lawyer.
And then he cut communication. I complained to the agency and they said, Try and work it out with the realtor himself. When I told them I already tried, they brought up the contract. I said I was going to speak to a lawyer about the contract, but they laughed and said good luck. The lawyer informed me it could drain our account going against the agency, and we made the painful decision to wait him out the full year, saving a lot more money in the meantime. The contract ends and we find our perfect first home, above the original price we were approved for and with the most amazing realtors we have ever met. During closing day at the realtor's office, the sellers of our home used the popular agency we just escaped from. Our previous realtor watched in the hallway as we signed for a house almost 150k more than we would have bought from him. Exactly 1 month after our contract was up, he scrambled to find the now expired contract because he was sure that he was about to win. I know a lot of people at the office were talking about it, and our realtors let us know what had happened after we left. It made me feel good to watch the horror on his face through the conference room windows, as his superior told him to go home due to his frantic behavior. Apparently, he had been using company time and expenses to check on our financials weekly throughout the year in order to catch an easy check through a broken contract. There was no confrontation between us directly, but I definitely feel like we won that one. I looked on their company website and his name has been removed from their listed agents. And you know guys, one of the things that my parents always taught me when I was young is that you should never be too greedy. If you are too greedy, bad things happen, like to the awful realtor in this story. But then again guys, I have to admit, I really enjoy stories about greedy people getting a healthy dose of karma. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.